Discover the amazing bond. A little girl transforms a grumpy CEO's heart during their surprising encounter. Charlie sat alone in his sleek, sterile office, staring at a graph that plunged down like a dying star. The relentless demands of his tech startup absorbed him whole, chains of anxiety binding him to late nights spent in the harsh glow of fluorescent lights. As the head of a company on the brink of failure, he had grown known for his coldness, a grump whose embrace of profit margins eclipsed the values that once mattered to him: compassion, empathy, family. Failing meant losing everything he had devoted his life to, yet here he was, racing mind and irregular breathing, painfully aware of the emptiness surrounding him. That evening, it happened, a disruption he never anticipated. The almost musical laughter of a little girl, Emma, echoed down the office hallway, pulling him from his trance. She appeared with her mother at the door, wide-eyed, her innocence contagious, painted against the stark gray of corporate life. Each flashing screen fascinated her as she pointed, excitement bubbling out of her, over the gadgets long dulled in Charlie's sight. For the first time in years, he felt warmth stirring inside him. A smile, a genuine smile, pulled at the corners of his mouth, shocking him. He hadn't smiled like this since he was a child, unburdened by the weight of ironclad ambitions. Emma, a 7-year-old with a stutter that often made her a target for teasing, didn't know that her brightness illuminated his darkened world. As they talked, their shared laughter created threads of connection, a web that cocooned him in something he had starved for: humanity. Yet, as her eyes sparkled with fascination, a troubling thought tugged at him. How could he protect this light? He, who had shut down so many people in his relentless climb. The memory of angry emails, scornful meetings, and bitter decisions crowded his mind, wrestling with a newfound realization that he had dismissed human connection for too long. He had become the monster in a horror film he previously had only watched. Before he could delve deeper into these revelations, the call came that turned everything inside out: a merger. A ruthless takeover that could dismantle everything he had built, yet it also threatened to erase the soul of his company. The stakes rose like a tide, anxiety tightening around him. Could he fight for his life's work? Was success now defined solely by dollar signs, stripped of creativity and compassion? His heart raced as Emma's colorful drawings on scrap paper began to call to him, those stark, simplistic images of joy overlaying an office suffering from a soul sickness. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As he hovered over the crayon splash table, Emma paused, her face intent on her artwork, pure joy radiating from her small frame. The contrast of her innocence against his heavy, corporate anxieties drove home an agonizing image. Was he truly ready to sacrifice everything for a title, for fear or competition? The dilemma hung like a noose around him, ticking down to a confrontation he dreaded. With every tick of the clock echoing in his ears, he felt the urge to reclaim his integrity, to fight against the looming merger that embodied all he despised. Yet fear gnawed at him. What if he failed? Would his entire world crumble around him? Standing on the precipice of change, Charlie's mind raced as he prepared for a battle, adrenaline surging through his veins. In that moment, he sensed the looming crossroads before him, whether to choose a path inspired by Emma's light or to cling to the darkness of ambition. As the office doors swung open, his heart raced even faster, caught between resolve and dread. His decision in this moment would shape not just his future, but the fragile bond he had forged with that little girl. The stakes had never felt higher. Charlie inhaled sharply, body taut with impending choice. He stood at the crossroad, visualizing the two paths unfurling before him. The first continuing down the relentless path of ambition, cold calculations, and profit margins, was well-worn but heavy with isolation. The second featured an uncharted territory, characterized by the warmth Emma had sparked within him, a realm promising creativity and a rekindling of integrity. Uncertainty draped over him like a heavy coat as he clasped the paper in his hands, feeling the temptation of every executive plan etched in his mind. Lost in thought, Charlie noticed the way Emma released a soft giggle as she immersed herself in the coloring, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in his heart. Her carefree spirit acted like a lighthouse beckoning him out of his self-imposed fog. Was it possible for a former tyrant to transform into a champion for the small, the overlooked? For a fleeting instant, hope flickered within, pulling him toward the possibility of genuine connection if he dared to step away from his protective barriers. In the following hours, discussions about the merger filled the air in his office. His colleagues buzzed around him, their voices a blend of excitement and anxiety, each one presenting arguments advocating for expansion. Yet, in this whirlwind of ambition, all Charlie could picture was the stark contrast to Emma's innocent spirit. His heart began to palpitate again, a nagging reminder that every decision he made now would echo beyond the boardroom. It would impact everyone working under him, those whose lives he had impacted directly or indirectly. The moment his assistant handed him the merger documents was when reality crashed into him like a wave. He glanced at the numbers lined up on the paper, glistening, enticing, yet odious in their implication. This merger would secure his company's profitability, but at what cost? Would he be reducing his employees to simple cogs in a machine, devoid of the humanity he saw shining in Emma? For the first time, Charlie felt the need to get out of his chair. He excused himself from the conference room under the guise of needing to clear his head. The hallways, usually vibrant with the faces of busy employees, felt hauntingly empty as he walked toward the small area where Emma had colored that afternoon. He picked up the scraps of her artwork strewn across the table, remnants of her unfiltered creativity. A voice from deep within urged him to act, that he needed to make a decision not merely as a business leader but as someone who could redefine the very fabric of his company. The question was, could he relinquish the relentless pursuit of power and instead embrace the softer virtues he had pushed aside? As he sat there, staring at the splashes of color and joy, he contemplated whether he could turn away from this merger and rally his employees, encourage them to reclaim their spirit, rejuvenate their creativity, and invest in innovative projects that intertwine profit with compassion. The thought sent ripples of exhilaration through him, but the fear of failure tightened its grip once more. Could he truly spearhead this risk when, by all standards, he should be accepting the merger? Sitting under the hum of fluorescent lights, the door creaked open, and Emma stepped in, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Charlie, can you come see my drawing?" she chirped, pulling him back to the present. For a moment, all doubts melted away in the simplicity of her joy. As he stood to join her, a clear thought struck: this journey began with her, and perhaps it could transform into something greater. "I'm coming," he replied, smiling, but a knot of uncertainty still coiled in his belly. The moment of truth had not yet arrived, but the path of action was beginning to open before him. And as he followed her out, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was ready to face the embodiment of everything he had suppressed inside, determined to fight for Emma, for his employees, and most importantly, for himself. What awaited him in this uncharted territory, where humanity would have to clash with the corporate beast within? Would he be strong enough to confront his greatest fears? Charlie stepped into the small room where Emma had set up her colors and paper, the vibrant strokes of crayon against the canvas awakening something within him. Her drawing, a glorious explosion of colors, breathed life into a space that had felt so sterile and calculated. "Look at all the people!" she exclaimed, pointing to her rainbow-hued figures holding hands in a circle. Her innocent joy cut through Charlie's turmoil, reminding him of the bonds he had neglected in pursuit of rising profits. "Do they make you happy?" he asked, kneeling beside her as the colors filled his vision, a stark reminder of the choices he faced. "No one can be sad when they're together," Emma replied with earnestness, her small hand brushing away a few strands of hair from her face as she concentrated. As he watched her, a moment of clarity washed over him. He realized that the merger represented more than a mere financial decision. It threatened to sever the ties he wished to strengthen, not just with his employees, but with the very ideals he once cherished. Emma's eyes sparkled as she added vibrant swirls around her figures. "You should join us, Charlie. You can be colorful like me." The invitation lingered in the air, urging him to step outside his monochrome life. For an instant, Charlie imagined adopting that vision, the spark of creativity, the warmth of connection. He envisioned implementing policies that fostered collaboration among his employees, initiatives that celebrated ideas rather than crushed them beneath the weight of profit margins. But still, the specter of the merger loomed large, whispering the allure of stability and power. Could he imagine leading a team that thrived not just on numbers, but on collective spirit and innovation? As these thoughts raced, anxiety began to trade places with hope. A new fire ignited within, pushing him to consider the possibility of exploring uncharted waters where financial gain met purpose. "I need to think about your drawing, Emma," he finally said. "But I have a feeling it could start something wonderful." With a grateful nod, Emma returned to her art, unaware of the internal battle raging within him. The knot in his stomach tightened once again as reality flitted back. How would his colleagues react to a drastic shift in strategy? And what if his vision failed? The thought chilled him, yet alongside it simmered the warmth of courage inviting him to act. That he could hear voices from the conference room, steady and assertive voices traditionally speaking of control and dominance, devoid of the warmth Emma exuded. That moment locked Charlie in contemplation. Perhaps it was time to challenge the very culture of his company, reshape the dialogue. He envisioned a gathering fueled by ideas, where employees were encouraged to voice their opinions, free to create rather than conform. But could he wrest the narrative away from the expectations of his peers? What if? He began to whisper softly to himself. What if he led a meeting focused entirely on innovation? What if he framed the conversation around possibility rather than profit? Yet, steeling his resolve meant facing potential backlash. As he weighed the risks against the potential for personal growth, doubt intruded once more. What if he stumbled? What if they rejected this new vision, labeling him a traitor for deviating from the path of profit? His heart raced. The thought of standing up in front of his colleagues, digging into the heart of the merger and presenting a radical departure, sent adrenaline coursing through his veins. But could he channel that adrenaline into determination? If he faltered, would he be perceived as a fool for venerating ideals over profits? What's wrong? Emma's voice pulled him back, her face tilting slightly in concern. Nothing, he replied, gritting his teeth against his internal storm. Let's finish your drawing first. As he joined her in coloring, an idea began to take root in Charlie's mind. Perhaps he could harness Emma's exuberance as the cornerstone of his approach. If only he could align that vision with the more pragmatic elements of running a company. That he finished coloring the part of the drawing Emma had handed him, radiating hues of collaboration and hope. The colors merged on the paper, symbolizing a deeper connection he yearned for, and in the back of his mind, the thought took shape: the time had come to face his fears, not just for himself, but for everyone who relied on him. Could he truly transform the tides of corporate progress? What changes would emerge from confronting his deepest anxieties, trusting in the potential for a renewed spirit? As they stepped back to admire the finished artwork, Charlie felt renewed purpose brewing. A subtle yet formidable resolve nestled within him. Was he ready to align his corporate ambitions with this newfound understanding of humanity? The next step, the one that could reshape everything, was imminent, but how would he navigate the delicate balance of creativity and commerce? With a glance back at Emma's vibrant drawing, a moment of truth lingered, waiting to emerge. The moment felt surreal. The chaos of Charlie's thoughts danced beneath the vivid hues of Emma's creation. What once seemed a distant dream of nurturing bonds had transformed into a live wire of potential action. He sighed deeply, allowing the weight of the decision to settle heavily on his shoulders. A bright inkling of purpose emerged through the clouds of doubt. In the quiet of the small room, the outside world faded, and its noise was replaced by the enthusiastic scratch of Emma's crayons and the soft whisper of an idea taking form in his mind. He realized he was not just coloring a picture, he was sketching the outlines of a new identity, one he had long neglected. Perhaps this could be something even more profound than reclaiming his tie to the workplace. This could mark the rejuvenation of a dormant part of himself, the leader who once believed in possibilities, who championed collaboration and creativity. Emma, he said slowly, mindful of the weight his next words would carry. What if I shared your drawing with my work team? It could show them what it looks like when everyone comes together. How do you think they'd feel? Her face lit up, genuine excitement reflecting the innocence of her imagination. Happy. Like the colors. They'll want to be like them. A spark ignited in Charlie's heart. Emma believed in the beauty of connection, and perhaps he could radiate that belief amidst the confines of corporate walls. But how to translate her innocence into the cold, calculating atmosphere he navigated daily? The thought prompted another layer of anxiety. Would his colleagues embrace it, or would they dismiss it as naive idealism? Determination slowly grew, intertwining with lingering fears. Could he construct a path that bridged the gap between idealism and the stark realities of profit margins? The challenge felt immense, a puzzle where each piece demanded careful thought. He stood up, eyes drifting back across the drawing, the colors swirling together like the potential that lay ahead. His heart pounded, fear was palpable, but so was hope, the potent mix coaxing him forward. Leaning over to Emma, he whispered, I think we can change something important. You've given me an idea. In that instant, he resolved to channel the depth of emotion elicited by the drawing into the next meeting, a tactical positioning where he could present a case not only for the merger but also for rebirth. The moving force would not be numbers but the spirit of teamwork. He knew he had to navigate this carefully. Apprehension tightened his chest as he envisioned his colleagues' faces when he broached the subject. Would they scoff at the thought of embracing creativity when they could cling to revenue? His own past decisions echoed like shadows, each one calling him back to the safety of old habits. Still, the thought of losing the essence of his workplace pained him more than the fear of rejection. The next day loomed large, with all its promise of metamorphosis threaded within his subconscious like a beacon of light. His path began to crystallize. He would hold a meeting focused on exploring innovation as a core value, drawing directly from the vibrancy that Emma had embodied. As Charlie envisioned the strategy for the meeting, his mind began to spin with excitement. Could he transform skepticism into creative synergy? He felt restless anticipation bubble beneath the surface. While the true impact of that meeting remained uncertain, he noted an intrinsic belief growing. Maybe this was the moment that could redefine not just the company but his own sense of self-worth. That he looked back down at the drawing one last time, the vibrant colors still stark against the white canvas. Okay, Emma, it's time for me to get to work. As he exited the room, a ball of energy ignited in his stomach, one that he had almost forgotten but longed to embrace. The challenge ahead was daunting, but within those strokes of color lay the defining qualities of leadership he had yearned to reclaim. Would he seize the day, transforming apprehension into power and paving the way for opportunity? The next morning's meeting promised a reckoning, one where Charlie's vision would either soar or falter. Could he withstand the storm that was sure to come? The sun rose the following morning, casting long shadows across Charlie's living room. The vibrant drawing leaned against the wall as if directly challenging him to act. He could almost hear Emma's voice, playful and innocent, urging him to be bold. As the minutes ticked by, anxiety knotted tighter in his gut. The meeting would be pivotal, setting the tone for the future of the team and, potentially, his career. Charlie had spent the night drafting his presentation, but the more he refined the PowerPoint slides, the more he felt they failed to capture the heart of what he envisioned. Numbers and graphs flickered on the screen in front of him, but it was the chaotic explosion of colors from Emma's drawing that he felt resonated deeply. He closed his laptop, running a hand through his hair. Enough of this, he muttered to himself. He couldn't recycle tired corporate jargon any longer. Instead, he needed to convey the spirit behind Emma's vibrant creation, one rooted in creativity and collaboration. Stepping into the office, he was greeted by the hum of the usual morning buzz. Colleagues shuffled through the hall with coffee cups in hand, their expressions a mix of determination and indifference. Each face mirrored one thing, the corporate grind he had come to know too well. A small spark of doubt flickered as he entered the conference room, filled with familiar faces hardened by routine and practicality. As he took his seat, he noticed that the room felt different today. It was heavier, suffused with expectations and skepticism. For a moment, Charlie contemplated retreat, a familiar urge to hide behind the safety of familiarity. But he caught sight of Emma's drawing tucked neatly under his arm. The color flashed defiantly, jolting him back to the mission he envisioned. The meeting commenced with the usual banter, building to the moment when Charlie would share his vision. As he stood, he glanced at the drawing once more and felt a surge of resolve enveloping him. "Team," he began, his voice steadier than he had anticipated, "I want to talk to you about something that isn't just about numbers. I want to introduce a new approach to how we operate." He pulled the drawing from under his arm and held it up. The room fell silent, the glow of bright colors contrasting sharply with the dull, gray walls. "This is a drawing by my daughter, Emma. It isn't just a piece of art, it symbolizes unity, collaboration, and the beauty of diverse perspectives coming together." Eyes widened, brows raised. The tension in the air shifted, curiosity intermingling with doubt. Charlie pressed on, fueled by the belief that change could arise from unpredictability. What if we focused on innovation and creativity as our core values? What if we could embrace the chaos of ideas instead of stifling them with metrics? He felt invigorated as he spoke, pouring out his thoughts like never before. Instinctively, he navigated through the team's past stagnation, addressing their fears while weaving in the hope and vitality that Emma's colors represented. But as he spoke, Charlie couldn't dismiss the flicker of apprehension in some of their expressions. Would they take him seriously? Would they see this as a genuine shift or simply as another corporate diversion? Just then, Lisa, the team's skeptical project manager, leaned forward, arms crossed tightly. "Charlie, we need results, not daydreams. How do you plan to make this practical?" Her jab struck like a pin on a balloon, and self-doubt threatened to resurface. Yet, in that moment, he recognized the pivotal role such opposition played. It was a chance to confront a challenge, a skill he had long avoided: real engagement, confrontation with a purpose. "Lisa," he replied, meeting her gaze head-on, "it's exactly that practicality we've been lacking. If we don't start embracing creativity and communication, we risk losing our essence. We must find innovative ways to operate that resonate with who we are." The power of vulnerability surged within him. As the conversation rippled through the team, Charlie realized he was genuinely advocating for a shift within himself and for them all. Each question and challenge pushed him further into a space of growth. As discussions unfolded, he felt the room beginning to respond. Ideas sparked and counterarguments ignited, but Charlie remained steadfast, knowing this was the exact friction needed to fuel transformation. Yet, the session was not without its hurdles. By the time they had touched on half of his proposed plan, clouds of doubt flickered across the room again. Would they trust this new direction? Charlie paused, allowing the silence to hang heavy, licking his lips as he prepared for the closing remark. "I believe in the power of collaboration, in a space where creativity thrives. Let me know, are you willing to venture into the unknown with me?" In that moment, uncertainty enveloped him, but the seeds of hope had been sown. He had provoked a crucial confrontation, a defining choice lay ahead, one that promised to reshape not just his career, but himself. Would they rally to support a leader who, against their equational tendencies, dared to dream? Only time would tell, but the lingering tension suggested this was only the beginning. As the meeting drew to a close, the room remained thick with an uneasy energy. Charlie could feel Lisa's skepticism bubbling beneath the surface, her tight-lipped expression mirrored by a few others. He had laid bare his vision, but as he surveyed the landscape of their faces, the silence felt more like a wall than an opportunity. "Great job, Charlie," his friend Ben said, trying to break the ice. "I mean, really bold move. We could use more creativity around here." It was a small bomb, but one Charlie appreciated. He sensed, however, that genuine acceptance was still a distant goal. "Thanks, Ben," he replied, forcing a smile while absorbing the residual tension. The true test had only just begun. The clash of ideas filled his mind, but the lingering uncertainty left him questioning if vulnerability was enough to bridge the gap between aspiration and execution. Days turned into a blur as Charlie reminded himself to stay steadfast. Meetings elongated, and discussions swirled around spreadsheets and deadlines, but he remained vigilant about integrating his approach. During break sessions, he found himself nudging into casual innovation discussions, tossing out ideas inspired by Emma's drawing, but many responses were met with half-hearted nods or veiled dismissals that he recognized that to provoke change, he needed to lead from the front, not just in ideas but in resilience. Each dismissive glance or raised eyebrow felt like a thorn embedded deeper into his resolve. The cycle of doubt threatened to undermine the spark of creativity he was cultivating. Charlie often found himself lost in thoughts swirling like the colors of Emma's art, pondering the best strategy to penetrate the layers of skepticism and engage his team further. One afternoon, Charlie decided to fold the conversation back into a team workshop. They had encountered a familiar project crisis, one that had stalled their progress. Instead of adhering strictly to the usual formats, Charlie proposed a brainstorming session infused with the ethos he had introduced. He knew to break away from traditional formats that often felt stifling, this balled-up tension needed to unfurl. "Let's set aside our current metrics," he announced, watching eyebrows shoot up. "What if we took a step back and really mapped out what we envision for the future?" The room exploded with murmurs, half excited, half nervous, a mix he was determined to nurture. In a small circle, Charlie circulated large sheets of paper and markers. Fuel for his vision sparked. "Imagine next year," he prompted, "if we were unrestricted by what's been done before. What ideas could we propose?" They began to write, and slowly the focus shifted. The colors of creativity were seeping into their stark workspace. He saw Lisa's disapproval starting to wane, her arms unfurling as she drew elaborate diagrams. It was as if hidden impulses were coming alive, overlooked talents revealing themselves. Charlie could sense a change, albeit tentative. New energy sketched its way into the atmosphere. After an hour, they examined the chaotic array of ideas. Their collective artistry became a concrete reflection of shared ambition. "We can outline practical steps from here," Charlie concluded, noticing a light in the team's eyes. However, deep internally, a small voice whispered doubts. Was this merely an outbreak of camaraderie spurred by novelty? What would happen when the excitement faded, and the grind of the everyday returned? Charlie felt the familiar grip of anxiety, but he stifled it, choosing instead to trust the bonds they had formed. "Well, that was something," Lisa finally said with a small smile uncharacteristic for her. "If we can keep the momentum, I might be on board." His heart lifted, but another inner struggle emerged. Could he maintain this newfound energy? Would he falter at the first major setback? Charlie went home that night with Emma's drawing echoing in his mind. His thoughts wrestled with doubt, but every scrap of encouragement propelled him forward. Training himself to embrace these feelings as part of his evolving journey, he resolved to strengthen his connection with his team. He envisioned playful engagements funneling creativity moments where they could all let down their guards and channel unfettered innovation. Each day became a step into uncharted territory, and instinctively, he recognized it was time to let go of being the sole leader. The tension gnawed at him as he planned their next workshop, questioning whether they would truly embrace this journey. Would they invest their energies into sustaining this shock of color they had uncovered? The question rang in his mind as he fell asleep that night, replaying the day's progress amid the flickering colors of hope. It formed there, a distant whisper. What would he discover if he let them lead alongside him? Tomorrow would reveal more. The potential remained tantalizingly out of reach. In the quiet hours of early morning, Charlie awoke with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. As sunlight streamed through his window, illuminating the remnants of yesterday's breakthrough, he saw the scattered papers across his kitchen table, papers covered with vibrant sketches and ambitious goals. Each scribble represented not just ideas, but a deep collective willingness to step out of comfort zones. He understood that today had to be different. He had initiated the conversation. Now, it was his turn to step back and encourage the others to carry the spark forward. The stakes felt higher than ever. Could he really trust his team to take ownership of the ideas they had bared in the daylight of creativity? as he walked into the office, Charlie's heart raced. The atmosphere buzzed with renewed energy, a stark contrast to the tight-lipped silence he had grown accustomed to. Colleagues chatted animatedly around coffee pots. He smiled, letting the infectious energy catch him off guard. Yet, a voice in his head warned him anticipation is often the precursor to disappointment. "Ready for the next session?" Ben asked, breaking through Charlie's thoughts, his voice a mix of enthusiasm and curiosity. "Absolutely," Charlie responded, masking his uneasiness. "We need to dig deeper today, let's see where our imaginations can take us. But I want everyone to share the load." With that, he introduced a simple but radical format. "Each of you will lead a part of our brainstorming circle. Bring your expertise, your style, and your own insights. I believe our success hinges on collaboration." The room seemed to pulse with newfound purpose as Charlie stepped back, opting to observe rather than dictate. Lisa took the lead, surprising him with her assertiveness as she harnessed her critical thinking to guide conversations, transforming her skepticism into constructive feedback. Charlie couldn't help but admire how her diagrams took shape, seamlessly integrating ideas into a coherent vision, yet, amid the encouragement, self-doubt reared its head again. What if this was merely the glow of initial enthusiasm, fizzling out once the daily pressures returned? Would he remain relevant as a leader if he wasn't the one steering every discussion? As the minutes melted into hours, something incredible began to bubble up within him. Conversations turned deeper, ideas took on a life of their own, and a low hum of laughter punctuated the air. His colleagues discussed concepts he had initially dared not propose, things like creating unconventional prototypes and off-site meetings to explore alternate paths. While they tackled new topics, Charlie quietly noted each person's contributions, realizing that this process wasn't just an exercise in brainstorming, it was an exploration of their combined strengths. However, one face still reflected uncertainty: Jack, a senior member known for his traditionalist leanings. His reticence became a shadow lingering over the productive atmosphere. Determined, Charlie approached him during a lull, hoping for a candid conversation. "Jack, I've noticed you seem a bit hesitant. What's on your mind?" Charlie inquired, sincerity in his voice. Jack hesitated, flashes of frustration and confusion crossing his features. "I just worry we're losing focus, you know. All this creativity, where's the structure? We can't just float in ideas." Charlie felt a pang of unease. Jack's concern was valid, grounding him to the practical whys of their work. "I understand, but what if we structured ideas around our goals? Could we not make this creativity our foundation rather than our downfall?" Their brief exchange crackled with tension, but something shifted within Charlie. He wasn't just battling skepticism, he was learning to navigate different dimensions of leadership, balancing inspiration with practicality. As the session concluded, team members seemed lighter, their spirits buoyed by ownership. Charlie finally felt a flicker of hope emerge, seeing the potential for a more cohesive workspace fostered by shared leadership. But as he left for the day, the picture of Jack's skeptical eyes remained lodged in his mind. The cycle of doubt loomed over him once again. How would he reconcile creative freedom with the need for structure that Jack highlighted? What awaited tomorrow could set the stage for confronting these challenges head-on. Would he have the wisdom to maintain this balance, or would the inevitable conflicts tear their progress apart? Tomorrow, they would reconvene, and the stakes were set only to rise. The next day dawned with a weight that settled heavily on Charlie's shoulders. The sun's glare through his office window felt less invigorating and more glaring, a reminder that his doubts were stubborn and unrelenting. Today, he would need to confront not just Jack's skepticism but the growing uncertainty within himself. As he entered the office, he caught a glimpse of the collaborative spirit that had blossomed the day before. Colleagues shared quick, knowing smiles, a shared acknowledgement of their collective effort. But this time, Charlie felt like an outsider observing a phenomenon he had initiated but struggled to fully embrace. "Morning, Charlie." Lisa chirped, her enthusiasm more vibrant than his own. "Good morning," he replied, forcing a smile as he processed the chaotic tide of thoughts swirling in his mind. They convened for their session, and as everyone settled into their chairs, Charlie felt a flicker of the hope that had stirred within him yesterday. He cleared his throat, intending to set the tone with energy. Let us pick up where we left off. I want us to build on the ideas and address Jack's concerns about structure as we go. The room echoed with murmurs of agreement, but as he looked over the faces, Jack stood out the familiar look of skepticism framed by furrowed brows. Would Jack's criticism derail what they built? It hung in the air, palpable and potent. Lisa kicked off the discussion, leading them into an exploration of potential project frameworks that could give their creativity a tangible path. Others chimed in, sharing both wild concepts and practical elements, but as excitement swelled, Charlie noticed Jack remained detached, arms crossed defensively. Jack, how do you see our direction fitting into this? Charlie asked, feeling the tremor of hesitation in his own voice. Jack took a moment before responding. I don't want us to lose sight of our core goals. Creativity is great, but we have to validate ideas through measurable outcomes. Without checks, we're just circling around. Charlie felt a hard knot form in his stomach. Jack's words resonated too closely with his own fears, the fear of drifting aimlessly among innovative ideas, unable to harness any of them meaningfully. Right, Charlie began, forcing himself to take a deeper breath. What if we created a tracking system that aligns our creative pursuits with our performance targets? A way to ensure that innovation doesn't come at the expense of our objectives? Jack's expression shifted slightly, perhaps a hint of recognition behind the flicker of skepticism. That could work only if we keep evaluating our creative choices' needs and ensuring they serve our goals. This conversation wasn't just about logistics, it was a key moment in deciding the type of leader Charlie wanted to be. Was he going to stifle creativity to appease traditional views, or could he integrate both worlds into an innovative framework? As discussions continued, Charlie's understanding deepened. The exchange with Jack was no longer confrontation, it was collaboration, and he grasped the beauty in that transformation. Conversations that had begun as a surface-level exploration of ideas now dipped into a profound interplay of trust and accountability. By the time the session wrapped, Charlie felt a rush of exhilaration laced with exhaustion. His colleagues became champions of the day's work, some even volunteering to take ownership of developing the framework they had discussed. Yet as evening approached, a familiar tension curled itself back into Charlie's thoughts. Could he truly maintain this momentum while ensuring that creativity didn't eclipse the essence of what they were striving toward? Was he equipped to negotiate this balance moving forward? Charlie stared out at the setting sun, contemplating the delicate relationship between structure and innovation. How could he cultivate a culture where both could thrive harmoniously? Little did he know, an unexpected encounter was about to challenge all his preconceptions about leadership. Tomorrow loomed with the potential for revelation. A new conversation might just hold the key to his expansion as a leader. Would it be a breakthrough or another test of his resolve? The following day, Charlie stepped into the office with a cautious optimism that felt new yet fragile. His encounter with Jack had shifted something within him. The notion that creativity could coexist with structure no longer seemed like an impossible dream, it was a challenge he was willing to embrace. He was met with the usual buzz of morning chatter, but today Charlie felt an unusual restlessness. He had sensed a shift, both in himself and in the dynamic of the team, and he knew he couldn't let this moment slip. Morning, everyone, he called out, trying to capture the collective energy he'd seen yesterday. It was time to push further, to harness this momentum and not retreat back into uncertainty. During their daily session, Charlie decided to invite Jack into a deeper discussion. I think we need to dive even further into how we can balance the creative processes with our desired outcomes. What can we implement today to keep that duality alive? To his surprise, Jack leaned forward, intrigued rather than defensive. If we're going to marry creativity with structure, we need to ensure everyone understands the parameters of success. How do we define that as a team? Charlie felt a spark of excitement. This was the heart of the matter, nurturing a shared understanding of expectations could pave the way for innovative thinking. What if we host a workshop to clarify goals and allow everyone to weigh in? Everyone's voice is an asset that can shape our targets. Jack nodded, and in that moment, Charlie realized he was learning to draw Jack into the fold rather than facing him as an adversary. This approach could redefine their collaboration. As discussions unfolded, the room began to resonate with an air of empowerment. Team members chimed in with ideas and personal anecdotes about the challenges of creativity under restricted frameworks. Charlie felt himself transforming from the cautious contributor to a facilitator of dialogue. However, a sudden thought clouded his exhilaration. Was he truly ready to accept constructive criticism from his peers, or would he falter under the weight of their expectations? Later, during a short break, Lisa approached him, her expression earnest. "Charlie, I've seen you grow tremendously. Embrace the moment, your openness is inviting us all to step up, too." Her words felt like a warm blanket, sheltering him from his self-doubt for just a moment, but as he returned to his desk, Charlie's thoughts turned darker. Could he sustain this idealism when faced with setbacks? Would the team respect him as a leader when they didn't see his own struggles? The hidden fears of inadequacy lingered, haunting him like shadows that stretched in the sinking sunlight of the late afternoon. He was torn between wanting to inspire and the fear of failure that whisperingly loomed over him. Just then, the door swung open and in came a girl he recognized from his local coffee shop, a young girl named Zoe. "Mr. Charlie!" she exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "I heard you like ideas. I have a really good one." Her innocent enthusiasm punctured the tension brewing inside him. She had no reasons to doubt his capabilities, no apprehensions to cloud the discussions of professionalism. Here was a reminder of the pure essence of creativity, fearless, unfiltered. Charlie leaned down, intrigued. "What's your idea? Let's paint something. But paint it like it's a mix of happy things and sad things. It can be fun." A smile broke across Charlie's face, and he realized how much wisdom was hidden in her simplicity. That was the spark he had been missing. As he sat listening to her animated explanations, Charlie felt a shift. Perhaps this was the unorthodox moment he needed, the realization that creativity wasn't just about structure but rooted deeply in the freedom of expression, embodying both joy and sorrow. Tomorrow loomed with the potential for a new perspective. He needed to explore how combining childlike imagination with practical frameworks could elevate their collective approach. What other unexpected elements could spring into his consciousness and transform his leadership style anew? The day Charlie had long anticipated arrived, an opportunity that would shape his identity as a leader. The habitual buzz of the office contrasted with his internal focus, determination pulsing through him like electricity. Today was not just about innovative ideas, it was about implementing them with conviction. As he entered the conference room, the faces of his team reflected a blend of curiosity and skepticism. Yet, instead of feeling overwhelmed, he embraced this collective energy. "Thank you all for being here today. I want to celebrate our progress and tackle how we balance creativity with measurable success." Charlie felt a surge of confidence as he spoke. Drawing courage from his previous encounters with Emma's art and Zoe's childlike enthusiasm, he laid out his vision for the workshop. "Let's dive deep into defining our goals together. Each of your voices is crucial in shaping our trajectory." At first, the atmosphere was tentative. Jack's raised eyebrows told Charlie his skepticism lingered, but Charlie pressed on, invoking a space where ideas could meld. One by one, participants began to engage, surmising their challenges and victorious moments. Lisa, leaning into the conversation, passionately proposed a unique project framework she had brainstormed. "What if we break down our goals into creative sprints, allowing feedback loops to guide our innovation while still measuring success through specific metrics?" The room ignited with dialogue. Charlie felt invigorated by the dynamic exchange. He realized that he wasn't merely leading an initiative but co-creating a movement that merged ambition with authenticity. Yet as ideas flowed, a flicker of concern nagged at him. What if this energy faded? Would he have the strength to maintain a thriving atmosphere when the pressures of deadlines returned? The doubt lingered like a distant storm cloud, but instead of allowing it to fester, he expressed his vulnerability to the team. "I'll be honest, I'm nervous about keeping this momentum. I know I need your support to turn these concepts into our new reality." To his surprise, it was Jack who stepped up to reassure him. "You're not in this alone, Charlie. We're all invested in making this work." Charlie's heart swelled. This was precisely the connection he had yearned to cultivate, genuine collaboration rooted in shared accountability. As the workshop progressed, Charlie witnessed the birth of novel solutions. Team members collaborated on tasks, fostering an atmosphere of encouragement and creativity. Their discussions birthed a blueprint for innovation, one that seamlessly intertwined their fearless aspirations with clearer strategies for execution. Following the session, Charlie allowed himself a moment of reflection. He realized that the apprehension that had once clouded his leadership was transforming. He had shifted from a solitary figure shrouded in self-doubt to a facilitator of collective genius. This metamorphosis was confirmed when he noticed Jack approaching. "I didn't think I'd say this," Jack offered, a subtle smile creeping across his face. "But I genuinely believe this approach could invigorate not just our projects, but also our team spirit. Count me in." Charlie felt a tidal wave of validation wash over him, a tangible acknowledgement that he was on the right path. This moment solidified his commitment to following through with the new culture they had begun to build. With the days that followed, they implemented their creative sprints, generating an upcoming project that would test their newfound principles. Charlie took the step of delegating key leadership roles within these sprints, sharing challenges and outcomes. It invigorated his colleagues and continued to foster engagement where before there had only been routine. As the week drew to a close, Charlie was struck by the palpable transformation within the entire team. Colleagues exchanged high fives, laughter echoed through the halls, and the environment was alive with fresh enthusiasm. His heart swelled with pride. He had not only revived his company but also reignited the passion for connection and innovation within himself. At a celebratory wrap-up meeting, in view of actual success and measurable results, each team member shared insights and reflections. Charlie stood before them, his voice steady with newfound confidence. "I want to thank each of you for believing in this journey. We've proven that creativity and structure can coexist. You've all conquered your own uncertainties and taken ownership of this transformation." The applause rang like sweet music through the air, a collective acknowledgement of what they had achieved together. Charlie knew this was only the beginning. That he glanced at Emma's drawing and felt an unshakable resolve cementing within him. He no longer craved accolades or titles. What truly mattered was fostering a culture that nurtured every individual's creativity. As he left the meeting room, Charlie wore a smile that knew no boundaries. He had not just achieved a goal, he had proven to himself, and to his colleagues, that authentic leadership lies in empowering others. Now, he stood firm in his identity, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, not as a grumpy CEO, but as a visionary leader committed to creativity, growth, and humanity within the corporate landscape. This was not just a moment, this was a legacy beginning to take shape. If you've stayed with us until now, it's time to take action. You need to subscribe now to not miss more incredible transformations like Charlie's. Leave a like now to truly support the journey of personal growth. Comment below with your thoughts on Charlie's inspiring journey and what you believe can happen next, and do not wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who are ready to embrace their own transformations. Let us build this community together.